CISIA is an industry-driven consortium sponsored by National Science Foundation. It came out of many years of strategic planning to see how we could leverage tremendous amount of research investments and infrastructure that's been pumped into our universities, in this case LSU and Louisiana Tech, for doing research in the areas of materials and manufacturing. And we learned that there are over 80 of these consortia sponsored by NSF, but none of those were in the areas of structural integrity.
We did have multiple industry partners that provided letters of interest, and over the culmination of that planning grant, we decided that we would submit for the full IUCRC Phase 1. While we were waiting for the Phase 1 results from NSF, we decided to run some pilot projects with 2 industry members at that time.
And it would serve as a trusted resource for transformative insight, for predictive maintenance, for coming up with products that would be more efficient, particularly dealing with the aging infrastructure, aging components, to make sure that they would have a much better lifelong operation and more efficiently.
You need to find the right balance between research, meaning early technology readiness level product development or research, versus later product development. Many products that you develop are sometimes hampered by the fact that the technology underlying the development of this product is not quite developed yet, and then you have technical difficulties and delays in these programs. And that leads to the need to pre-develop certain technologies. And CISIA, I think, is exactly the right approach, where industry come with problem statements, find common areas of problems, and then work with faculty to develop the right research, the right technology development in this area to come up with these technologies.
We had industry members who voted on proposed projects and arrived at 2 projects that specifically had common interests and overlap. And so from that, then these 2 pilot projects went forward as almost like a demonstration of how this center would work and benefit industry.
The results were presented to our industry members. They were quite happy, and they have decided to continue their memberships. LSU and Louisiana Tech are 2 of our research universities in the state of Louisiana, and we have partnered quite a bit before on a variety of grants from NSF.
To be funded by the NSF, it had to be a unique area. But we focused on some of the strengths at both universities. So for instance, here at Louisiana Tech and what we do here at the TTC, we primarily focused on buried underground infrastructure, mostly pipelines, but other buried assets, and we focused on their structural integrity to make sure that they'll last for their full design life. At LSU, they focus more on the mechanical engineering aspects, primarily of equipment and fatigue of parts and things like that. And then we also have another center at Louisiana Tech, the IFM, Institute for Micromanufacturing, that's focused on micro and nanoscale material testing, sensors, monitoring, and things like that.
So industry has the option of becoming a full member or an associate member. And what they do is, depending on their membership status, they will vote on different projects that is purely their interest. And so combining all the monies together, we'll be able to do quite a bit of research here on campus. So there are 2 very interesting things that industry should notice. Number 1 is that 90% of their monies goes directly into doing the projects. And these projects are what we call use-inspired or pre-competitive.
It's the industry telling the university folks what they need, and then we try to meet those needs with the capabilities we have.
The members who buy into the center are able to get equal visibility in terms of what the findings are. It is then up to them to kind of take those lessons learned and that data and go forward and create something that is competitive and trademarked and able to basically be independent to their company.
Of course, we'll be using very sophisticated machines and technical know-how, But very important part of it is that we have very talented graduate students and postdocs.
And so when industry members are looking to hire people with specific skill sets, specific expertise, the graduate students that are coming out of our center are almost tailor-made to meet those needs, and in fact can slide right into a follow-on project at that company with ease.
The industry also has access to innovations that we have, the IPs, and also they have access to papers. Before papers are published, industry gets a chance to take a look at those. So really, we have created an infrastructure and innovation ecosystem. Here they will have multiple people working, from the faculty members and team-oriented environment, from the graduate students, and the machines that are available almost 24 hours a day.
And then they are all able to equally share then the products that come out of that in terms of lessons learned, understanding, and then they're able to take that forward and put that into a competitive marketplace.
In this case, you're able to stretch your research dollar by both pooling resources with other industry members. You're not having to pay for the administration of the center. That's covered by the NSF. And also you're using undergrad, graduate, and postdoc talent at universities to do that project, which should in general be a little bit cheaper than doing it internally. We have long-standing relationships with industry. We're familiar with working with industry. We understand the requirements of doing research with industry versus just traditional academic research. So we think that'll be a benefit.
It is really built for the industry. And with the expertise and the machinery and the equipment that we have here, we're hoping that we would grow to a much bigger type of a consortium that would bring in more members.
I would say if you have any kind of need in structural integrity monitoring, this is definitely a good IUCRC, I guess, center to join. The talent pool is very good. The leadership is really good. We had a very good experience so far. We already have a project that we believe we can leverage some of the work already coming out of the CISIA Center. So
one of the key drivers that we also have put into the company from a cultural perspective, don't try to do everything yourself. Get partnerships, let it be university, let it be governmental research centers that can be of mutual benefit for both. I think it helps with the university, what we said earlier, with the recruiting, but also driving the right programs at the universities so we can get the right attention to the problems the industry has directly into the research at the university. And at the same time, it helps you to focus on some of the things that you do best, the final commercialization, the product development and commercialization of a product, which I think the industry is responsible for in the end.